G'day YouTube, Mysterious Otways here. It's Sunday the 12th of June, Queen's birthday long weekend. Today's going to be quite a nice day. It's going to be clear skies, but it's not going to be that warm, but once we're hiking we'll get some warm. Now today we're hiking into Olangalah Reservoir. Now we planned this trip a couple of months back, probably about a month or so, 2 months back. At that time the Otways were experiencing a dry spell, so the plan was to hike around the lake and the reservoir and see if we could find some prints and have a good look around. The last recent couple of weeks we've had a fair bit of rain, so we may not be able to do that, but it's still worth a visit just to have a look around anyway. Now I'm heading along Cootes track here. As you can see, it's very, very picturesque. Cootes track was originally put in as a logging track. This area was extensively logged, and it was gravel up until about 10 years ago, where now it's become quite a tourist sort of road. Since the Otway fly and that was installed, a lot of people use it to get to that area. As you can see, there's a lot of old trees, a lot of old growth around the sides of the track here. The reason why they weren't logged is because they're mostly hollow trees. Hollow trees, of course, are no good, there's no timber inside of them. The old-time loggers had a method of, and a bit of a knack of hitting a tree with a stick or a bit of log, and telling by the sound that it made if the tree was hollow or not. So hence why they've left most of them here, which is good. I mean, they look pretty good, but every time I come along here there's always fallen trees. Yeah, sometimes we're over the track because they're just not strong enough to survive. So yeah, we'll take a walk and get some pictures of the sites on the way down there. So we'll catch up with you in a minute. Alright, so we made it down to Olangalah Reservoir. It was about a 2-hour walk roughly, and just under 6 k's. It's downhill, so walking out we're going to walk back uphill, but it's all good. Bit of wildlife around, there's some swans and a couple of ducks getting around. Really nice peaceful sort of area. Apparently there's a lot of platypus in here as well. We haven't seen any yet, but definitely worth a little walk down here just to get out and have a look around. Now we were hoping that the water level was going to be low, but the last couple of weeks there's been a fair bit of rainfall down here, and with all the embankments on the side it doesn't take long for water to catch up in this area. So there's no way knowing that we're going to get around the outside, and not going to find any prints or anything like that today to see what's been coming down to drink out of the reservoir. So it's hasn't been 100% successful what we planned on doing, but it's still been a good trip down here. So we're going to have a beer and yeah, just relax a bit, had some lunch. Now the reservoir, it's been here for years, but back in 1945 it made the headlines when 2 brothers, the Cootes brothers, were actually found drowned in the reservoir. Happened just over 7 years ago. It was actually the 9th of June 1945. The alarm was raised when their horses and their dogs returned to the family farm without their riders, so search parties were sent out, and I think it took them a couple of days until they were actually found in the waters here. So the first initial thought, and the story goes that they were actually trying to herd some cattle and got into some kind of difficulty. Maybe one of the brothers got in the water and was struggling, so the other one went in there to try and help him, and they both drowned. But there's also stories getting around that might not be the case, that there might be a more sinister sort of going on that happened. Now it's all just rumour, so there's no written proof of it, anything like that. And Mick knows a bit more of the story. That he knows that he's family friends with the Cootes family. Yep,
and long-term family friends.
Yeah.
And the story as I heard it, and it's not necessarily accurate, so for goodness sake nobody quote me on this, but it's always been my belief that the Cootes brothers were moving a mob of cattle through the area, and there was a couple of cows broke away from the mob and headed out into the water, and the boys headed out after them. Now, I'm guessing that the boys possibly could not swim, but they would have just ridden their horses out into the dam regardless. The Cooteses are renowned for being pretty competent horsemen, and I don't think a patch of water like this would have been any sort of obstacle whatsoever to them. They would have just flat stick galloped down the hill and out into the water and after the mob. But as for what actually led to the drowning, well, I'm a little bit puzzled with that, because as I said, they're fairly competent horsemen, and unless there was something in the water maybe that either spooked the horse, or they may have become entangled in a submerged tree or possibly an old fence or something, I just find it a little hard to believe that the boys just like fell off their horses and drowned. But I guess that's something that we'll never know. They've taken their secret to the grave with them. But I have heard suggestions that maybe it was not quite an accident. There may have been perhaps a skirmish even between the two brothers, and they might have come to fisticuffs out into the water, and that may have been what led to it. But that's just something we'll never know, and it's a mystery. Yeah. And it will be for a long time yet to come.
Yeah. It's funny enough though, when I first started looking at the reservoir, looked at the area on Google Earth and tried to do a bit of online research to find out more about it. And the story of the Cootes brothers is about the only thing that I could actually find. There's really nothing else about the place online. There was something about the platypus in the area, but that's about it. But yeah, so it's definitely a mystery. I just can't see how two brothers can drown. Even if one got into trouble in the water and the other one in there to rescue him, and I know if I had horses with me and no doubtly had some rope, I would have thrown him a line and tried to drag him out with the horse other than get in the water myself, particularly if I couldn't swim. And it would have been a still bit of water. It's obviously not going to be flowing and treacherous of any type. So yeah. So yeah, we made it down here. Now it's time to have a beer and a bit more of a poke around. And yeah, see what else we can find. Alright, so this is the main spillway of the dam. We've had a poke around here. Wasn't a great deal to see. It's a nice hike in here. Fair bit of water, as you can see, so the main objective of this hike was to try and walk around the weir itself, but that's just been a bust. The water level's too high, so we just got some footage, and now we're going to start the walk back. We're going to end the video here, and we'll end the video with some scenery, and Mick's going to read out a poem that his father Paddy wrote. The poem's actually about a member of the Cootes family, the actual father of the two boys that drowned. So until next time, thanks for watching, and just remember, if you get out in the bush, just leave behind tracks, no rubbish, nothing else.
As I said before, Cooteses have been a lifelong friends of our family, and Alan Cootes, who's a brother to the two poor unfortunate lads that drowned here, him and Dad were great mates, and Alan was a bit of a poet, and in his later years my father also started writing poetry. Now I'd like to read to you a poem that he wrote about Alan Cootes. The Colourful Cowboy. I've told you a story of Mouse, now I'll tell you of her dad. A wild and woolly bloke, a colourful sort of lad. Cootesy was a legend, a man that knew no fear. He'd ride a horse with the best of men and round up any steer. He'd tame almost any woman and down a glass of beer. He was a man of courage and rarely lost a fight, and yet he was a gentleman and most times polite. He also was a counsellor and then became the mayor. No matter what the task, he'd always do his share. He was a sawmiller a man of expertise. He cut timber to build houses and felled a fair few trees. Everywhere he went, old Cootes left his mark. We loved to hear him recite the man from Ironbark. On almost any subject, he seemed to have a notion, and out there on the dance floor, he was poetry in motion. He stood by his cobbers, he'd trust them with their lives, but none were very keen to let him near their wives. Give him a pair of Clydesdales and a mouldboard plough, or perhaps a wild bush pony, he'd outwit any cow. Handy with a crosscut saw and a spud fork too, there really was no limit to what this man could do. A handy sort of shearer, a diplomat as well. You could sit for hours and listen to the stories he would tell. Real fun at a party, he would enjoy a joke. He was quite unique, no ordinary bloke. Not with us anymore, he lost his final fight. We think of him each morning, we think of him each night. It was a special privilege to have him as a friend, a man of guts and courage right up to the end. A true story of a horseman, farmer, sawmiller, counsellor and diplomat. Cootes, the comical cowboy, the man in the old black hat. We can never replace him, I am absolutely sure of that. Rest in peace, Alan.